Jesse, I'm just letting you know I pressed record. I hope you see the timer at the top.
I thought this was a private podcast that just you and I were going to share. I didn't know everyone was going to hear this.
So
Wow.
what are you talking about? Like closed caption? No, closed circuit TV. It's like this is
That
only.
this was recorded for your and I personal enjoyment. We would watch it every year on the anniversary of the podcast. That's what I thought.
You know, maybe I should do that. Maybe I
Okay.
should. But in until we decide that, I did. I don't know if I'm going to do like this formal introduction. You are not a stranger to the show, although it's clear from our before I pressed record that we don't listen to each other's podcasts, or at least not in a timely fashion.
That's fair.
I do love your podcast, Sports Cards Nonsense, which it's interesting. It's sports period cards period nonsense. I remember you guys talking about that in the past.
That's how we think we should have marketed it to begin with. As far as like the title does not have the periods, but it has come to feel much more like that. So yeah, that's kind of our viewpoint. Is it's not just sports cards nonsense, it's just sports and cards and nonsense.
Mm. So there was a logo design mistake without ampersands or periods.
It was more of our coming to know what you don't know what the podcast is going to be until it becomes it. It's got to grow up a little bit, and that's what it's evolved into.
It's true. I like that because I feel like my style is evolving also, kind of like this cold intro. There's no like welcome to and all that stuff. Although I could kind of do that a little bit if I wanted to, but
Hmm.
again, you're not a stranger to the show. You are full of nonsense, but also knowledge and cheer and just relatively, fun disposition. So, all right. So maybe I will do a brief little, welcome to the podcast. So episodes 24 and 25 back in July, just prior to the national, I had on today's guest, Jesse Gibson, Sports Boi from uh, the duo. I would argue maybe the better half of the duo that makes up Sports Cards Nonsense. We talked
Wow,
about, yeah. I mean, it's
strong
not.
words.
It's a low bar. It's not like a. It's not high praise. It's
It's average. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
fair.
So should we tell the listeners? Mike was maybe gonna make it, and then he said, "I don't care too much for that podcast."
I don't know if those were the exact words,
Mm.
but I think you've got him locked in for a future pod. That's for sure. So
Yeah, I
I
think
I think he was. I messaged him on the side, and it did seem like he was down for a future event.
I think he's ducking me. I think he knows that I'm gonna come with the hard questions about Card Shop Live, and he's like, "I gotta come up with these reasons and excuses."
I think at this point there's not a question someone could ask, 'cause especially when like you have nothing to hide. That's like one of the really
Mhm.
great things about like what we do and how we kind of live our lives in general. It's like, oh, it's easy to do a podcast and to talk about anything and to be asked anything because really there's nothing to hide, so we can
Mhm.
talk about it and not feel like we're gonna get ambushed.
Okay. All right. So let's get to that in a moment. So, just to kind of catch the listeners up, we talked about the TCG side of the hobby, specifically Pokemon. Is it okay if I share with the listeners that, well, I'm about to say it anyway, but you and I have both played Pokemon Go in a maybe more leisurely way?
When it has nothing to do with content or entertaining the masses, we still enjoy a little Pokemon Go on the side.
Oh,
Yeah,
I meant
that's true.
I meant that you and I both slowly drive with it on so that it
Oh.
tracks.
I well sometimes like there's people who are like they do it for the content and then at the end of the day it's like not really something that they get into as much. I will openly admit I will drive just as slow as possible every time I'm going to the office, like leaving my neighborhood, because
Mhm.
I got to take a few turns. I'm just like, oh, what is that? Oh, is that a rat-a-tat over there? Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that little curveball. A
Oh.
curveball in Pokemon Go, if you know, is it gets you bonus XP. You'll learn. We'll talk more about it, people.
Have you seen The Good Life? Or
The man, that
it's
sounds
the
familiar.
NBC show with Kristen Bell. It's about like the afterlife and all that.
Yes, yeah. I did. I
So
saw. I saw
they
all of it.
have this meter or point system where if you do good things in life, it goes up, and if you do bad
Yeah.
things, it goes down. So does a little bit of you die inside, or do you think your point system goes down every time you press that button where it says I'm not a passenger, but you
Do
are?
I feel like I'm
I
just
am a passenger.
lying?
Yeah, you.
I am a
I am a
liar.
passenger. Yeah, I am a passenger is the button, I think.
Here's the thing. Am I a passenger of a vehicle whether I'm driving or not? I'm just asking. These are the things that people need to know. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm lying. I feel like I'm honestly answering that question.
So it's a design. It's a question design flaw, I think, right?
I mean,
It
listen, whatever your conscience allows is what I say in that situation. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think the question should say, "Are you driving?" But it doesn't, right? It really doesn't. It just says, "Are you?" I'm not a passenger, or I am a
Yeah.
passenger. Jeez, I keep getting it wrong. Maybe in my head, that's my like way of justifying it. Oh, it says I'm not a passenger. Yes,
All
I'm
I know is like based on this conversation alone, I feel like Pokemon Go should be sponsoring this episode because you're about to have so many new subscribers. You need, you know what, at the end of the episode, put out your friend ID so that people, once they join,
Oh,
they
right.
automatically friend you. I'm just saying, you do what you want. It's your
Yes.
show, bro.
No, thank you. No, Jesse Gibson is the at the end of this episode, I'll say the producer for this podcast episode was Jesse Gibson.
There you go.
I'm so glad to have you on. So, I wanted to do this series of like, where are they now, right? And uh, it's been maybe not as long as other folks, but like, 4 months since we last talked. And I think you come at a perfect time, at least for me, because even though I don't know when this particular episode will be published or released, I am, behind the curtain, just sharing with people. I'm recording this a day after I had one of my toughest episodes to record, which was about the, Rob G, sports card therapist, the mega bit, shill bit situation. And so before we get to nonsense, before we continue the banter of and the promotion of Pokemon Go and all that stuff, I just kind of wanted to say I apologize for not listening to your most recent episode, which came out yesterday. But is there anything you wanted to add to supplement what you said in that episode, which we can definitely direct people towards in the show notes?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the take that was made, and I feel like maybe it's ignorance on my part, but it's like I do think that something shady went down because the man went and deleted all of his social media, YouTube, eBay, like he seems to have vanished. So in that sense, I don't think you do that unless you're trying to hide yourself or go away from the public eye. But he was bidding up a Eli Manning card, and I don't know what he did wrong other than not pay for the card because I can't, like, people keep saying shill bidding
Mm,
and that's fine if it was because I mean I totally am against shill bidding, but I thought shill bidding it meant that you benefited in some way.
mm,
So I don't know, like, did he have one of these cards? Like, I think it was out of the Eli Manning was out of 10. I don't know if he had one of them and this was somehow going to benefit him, but
mhm,
I don't agree with making a bid, a mega bid. And let me just say this after, like, as someone who was watching, because I looked into this yesterday after he had deleted all his stuff, so I couldn't figure out what a mega bid was because everybody like was just talking about mega bid and no one actually explained what that is. To my understanding, it's just a large bid. It's a bid that he thought he could place that no one would ever touch that number, even though in this circumstance it wasn't even really that high. It was around what comps were for the card.
yeah.
But he thought, oh, well, no one's going to touch that number, so I'm going to put a mega bid on it. That's a
Mhm,
little clarification for you listening at home. But at the end of the day, he puts a bid that he couldn't afford to pay for. And that was stupid. But I don't know if it's a shill bid in the sense of I don't know how he benefited from doing that.
mm. I really think we should explore this more in the hobby, whether it's podcasts or social media, about the definition of shill bidding, because I have some friends in the hobby space who also think what you're thinking. And in my podcast episode, which I know you didn't listen to, because it was published like like literally 12 hours ago, and it was really late at night. And you were on Central Time, so I'll give you that.
Thank you. Thank you for all these excuses to get out of not listening to
Yes,
it. But
absolutely,
I
absolutely.
will. I
Yes.
100%.
my definition that I always carried was that it had to do with the intent to pay, which really only one person knows, which is the person who does the bidding, which is if you do not have the intent to pay when you're bidding, which is what people do when they drive up the price of something with their bids,
Mhm.
then that is shill bidding. So could be nuanced, could be completely wrong, like my definition, I mean, but that's what I always held on to is if you're bidding on something and you do not intend to pay with that particular bid, then you're shilling.
Well, let's do this. Let's go to the Oxford Dictionary for the definition of shill.
All
Can we do
right.
that for a second? Let me.
I
I've got.
mean,
Oh, what do you know?
how
I've
about
got it
this?
right
How about
here.
this? How about
What do
this?
you
You
know?
do you do Oxford. I'm doing Merriam-Webster because
Thank
I
you.
think I like them more.
I completely am on board with a little, backing up of this. If or could be completely different. We'll find
So
out.
what are
But
you putting? Shill or shill bidding? What are you putting in
I
there?
just put shill. Define the
Shill,
word
shill.
shill.
Oh, I mean,
So
that's such a term. Okay. Oh, here
what?
we go.
What? What?
No,
That's
I
it.
mean,
I think here's the thing. I think
because they're
once you
terms
hear
of
it,
art.
I think once you hear it, you'll appreciate what it
All right,
says.
here we
Okay.
go. Here we go. This is content.
So it says an accomplice
Hmm.
of a hawker, gambler, or swindler who
Hmm.
acts as an enthusiastic customer to entice or encourage others.
Hmm.
To me, that would indicate an accomplice, someone in cahoots, someone
Hmm.
getting some kind of benefit
Hmm.
from doing this act. I think what he did, honestly, it's still, I go back to the fact that he deleted everything. So there must be something that, like, usually I don't have a problem with like throwing blame where blame should be placed.
Hmm.
And that's really still the case here, but it is just a question of I don't really know, other than like maybe he was drinking and he placed a bid that was too high, or maybe he
Hmm.
was just like, I don't know what the reasoning for it is. That's where I get caught
I
up here.
see.
Like
I see. No, yeah,
motive is always such a big factor in someone's guilt in a court case.
indeed,
So
indeed.
what is the motive here? I don't know.
So I like that definition. I'm just gonna plug Merriam-Webster, sponsoring this podcast.
Yeah.
They say that a shill is one who acts as a decoy parenthesis as for a pitchman or gambler. I didn't know what a pitchman. I mean, I guess someone who pitches, but not a pitcher on a baseball diamond, I guess.
Hmm.
So one who acts as a decoy, or one who makes a sales pitch, or serves as a promoter.
Let me ask you, did you
So
see the latest season of Loki? Have you caught up on that at all?
I saw season one. It is my least favorite of the Marvel.
What?
Yeah, I know some people really don't like. So I have close friends outside of the hobby who really lambast me for that, but I just like the
Okay.
other ones more.
Well, there was
WandaVision.
a an instance of a pitchman and a shiller in the audience bidding it up to entice the rest of the audience to continue bidding. He was
Nice.
very excited, but he was actually working with the con man, the pitchman. So yes, again, but that again goes back to in cahoots, working together. So
So
that's again, I don't know.
that's interesting. So it seems like the what did you use, Oxford? That type of exhortation, or even Merriam-Webster. So it looks like maybe it's all those bids in the middle, right? Because when you're trying to entice a crowd, you're kind of doing it in the middle of the auction, like if it's a live auction, right? But in the middle of an online auction too, you have all these bids in the beginning to the middle, and of course there are end game shill bids. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. Oh my goodness. You know how there's that thing where like you say a word too many times, it loses meaning?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
I don't even know. I've said this word so many times now. But what do you think about that, I guess? Like, yes, there can be a end bid, the last bid be a shill bid, but this exhortation, getting people excited and riled up, right? That's what it seems like shill bidding is then?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I think. And
Mm,
again, I don't, I'm not saying he didn't do that. I'm not saying he didn't do something wrong. It's just like I
mm,
can't figure out exactly what it is. And since no one's actually talked to him, I always go back to
yeah.
devil's advocate in all of these cases. It's like, okay, here's what everyone, with microphones is saying about this situation. Great.
Mhm.
Now I'd like to hear the other side of the story.
Right.
And it does seem like there's something because, again, the counts are gone. So why would he do that if not for guilt? But yeah, I don't know. And that's kind of where we met on the podcast. It was just like,
Got it.
hey, it was stupid to bid something you're not going to pay for. That's
Mhm,
dumb. But
mhm,
to define it as a shill bid is still kind of questionable because we can't figure out where the benefit lies. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's paying his penance in the sense of now he's gone. Because I mean, what do you do? Do you arrest someone for doing something stupid, doing something wrong? I
mhm.
mean, in the
Right.
public eye, I do think you have a higher responsibility.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, okay, well, now he was caught and he's deleted all his accounts, and essentially he should not be allowed to be back in the public eye, getting attention for what he does or getting paid to talk about
Mm,
something.
yeah.
He should, if he wants to continue to bid, he wants to buy cards, great, but do it as your average Joe consumer.
I see.
That's kind of my viewpoint.
So you don't think he should be allowed back into the hobby from a social media standpoint?
I mean, he can do whatever he wants. I just don't think he should like be a content creator
Mm,
if he is in fact guilty of something. Like I don't.
yeah. Yeah, I talked to someone recently who was like, as soon as you take a dollar from a sponsor, or as soon as you accept money, your duties change, or you are held to a higher standard because now you are representing companies, which you guys have done as well, right? You guys have taken
Mhm,
sponsorships for your podcast and your content.
absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing though. Like Mike and I came into this in a kind of different position than a lot of people, is based on family, friends, outside obligations we have in our community. We kind of held ourselves to a higher standard to begin with because we know that it doesn't, I mean, despite what we do and say, whether we're getting paid or not paid, we know that there are people watching and looking at us that respect our opinions, and we don't want to ever be in a position to stumble somebody.
Hmm.
And it's the same exact thing when it comes to the community at large in the hobby. We're not in a position to want to make someone second guess the truthfulness of anything we say
Hmm.
or do. So, yeah, I mean, I 100% agree that you have a higher degree of uh, responsibility if you're taking money from anybody. But at the same time, that was no different from before we started this thing.
Yeah. Man, it's wild. It almost makes me think I shouldn't take any sponsorship money because at the time of this recording, I'm still sponsorless, but by the time this publishes, I might have a sponsor or two lined up. But it's one of
Whoa,
those
whoa,
things
whoa, whoa,
like,
whoa. Why do you
yeah,
say that? Do you say that because you're afraid of something that might
ah,
happen?
right, right.
Because it's
So,
like that, you don't even, I wouldn't even say that sentence because that almost is
edit,
an implication of
uh-huh.
guilt of something like,
Yes,
oh, I don't
right.
want to do that because I'm already trying to secretly do a
That
thing.
great. This is not going to get edited out. I said what I said, but I could maybe explain it a little bit more, which is, yeah, I here's the thing. I made a post on Instagram about how I hope that if not if, but like when I mess up, right? Whether I think that I am innocent and I didn't do anything wrong, hopefully it's not like a cardinal sin like shill bidding, but when I mess up, I don't want, or I would prefer not to have the mob come at me with pitchforks and tar and feathering because we are human. We're going to make mistakes, but I do understand that as this small platform gets bigger and bigger, and that I become a more prominent voice. I don't think I moved the needle yet, but if or when that time does come, that I am under more scrutiny. Now, I'd like to think that I comport my business uh, in the hobby and outside of the hobby, right? As a member of the community and my local community and my just everything I do in my life and the way I raise my kids. Yeah, that I do everything on the up and up. But I don't know. I am always afraid that I'm gonna do something dumb or I'm gonna make a mistake. I do. I
Sure.
do feel that.
That's good. It shows humility. And I think that's a thing that sometimes can be lacking in anybody in a position that they have a microphone in front of them. Like
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know, as just a person who was grown up in the South and enjoyed good manners and whatever the case, whatever you
Mhm.
want to call it, I like people that show humility, that show that they are infallible and that they can make mistakes, and but also that they can learn from those mistakes. And again, I go to the point of like, I don't think you should be this person if you do a thing that's bad, should be back in the hobby as a content creator. But
Mhm.
I could just as easily be swayed if that person came out and fully explained what happened, and maybe it was an accident, maybe he was being dumb and drank too much and bid or something like that. I think there are circumstances where anybody can come back, and I believe in second chances. So
Mhm.
that there's not a single person that's infallible, and I'm not going to say that uh, every single person who makes a mistake can't have a do-over. It's
Mhm.
just like sometimes it depends on the situation. Like how was it premeditated? If this
Yeah.
was in a court case, what kind
Mhm.
of like things are we taking into account?
Mm. Yeah, I like that. So everyone except car porn, right? Because you guys have really gone after him for. I mean, but that was actually like a crime. That was like a fraud,
I mean,
which is much
here's the
worse.
thing. That was like that. If it was like one thing, like in this case, if it was one thing, and if the guy really wanted to have a microphone back, I
Yeah.
think like okay, whatever. I know there are people out there in the content world who have done something bad and they still have a
Tell
microphone in
us the
front of them.
names. Tell us the names,
And
Jesse.
I'm not going to be their judge. I will just personally choose not to watch or consume that content.
Yeah.
However, if for someone who has knowingly done like wrong, not just once or twice, but
Mhm.
repeatedly trying to
Yeah.
scam people, and not even like small things. It wasn't a card, but hundreds of thousands people's retirements.
Right. Right.
There's a difference, and I think that's just it. Kind of comes down to you know I know it when I see it type of thing.
Right.
And that's hard to define, but it is how I can justify it to myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, the reason I bring up car porn is that you guys have talked about it, and you guys, yeah, I think we've all condemned the actions, but yeah, a lot of us put the individual or again the whole Juan Garcia thing is put him up on the pedestal because one, they wanted to be on that pedestal, right, as a watchdog, but two, like we put a lot of trust and faith in that individual or that account to kind of watch over the hobby, which again, it shouldn't fall on one person, it should be decentralized. But that person deleted all their accounts, much like what happened here with Rob.
Hmm.
And that's sad because yeah, I reached out really early on to see how he's doing, and I did give him some words of encouragement or just like, hey, I'm really sorry, how are you doing? But then like I said in my podcast episode, which I won't rehash here, but I think I was kind of going through these stages of like denial, acceptance, anger. And so right now yeah, I could reach out, but I'm still processing all this because he really, to me, was like a really prominent voice in my hobby experience.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. You had a different relationship with the man. As someone who was, we talked a little bit here and there. Mike and I think were on his podcast once before,
Hmm.
and it was nice enough. And I don't, wish him any harm or ill
Yeah.
will. But at the
Right.
same time, it's like, we all stand up for our own, moral values. And if
Yeah.
that's the thing you want to do is do something wrong and then just run away from it, whether that was all it was, if it was just a bad, stupid thing, outbid thing, or there was actual malice or
Yeah.
bad intent of you're trying to get something out of this, depending on all of these things, I think your opinion can vary. But unless there's something much deeper than that, it's like, I don't know. My personal take is he was good for the hobby when he was good, and he's bad for the hobby when he's bad.
Interesting.
People
All right.
change. There's
Yeah.
not a It's not always like a black and white situation. I think sometimes there's just varying degrees of guilt, and if he's guilty enough to do whatever he did to delete all his stuff, then maybe it is good that we're moving on. And if you have to grieve it, grieve it. But I wouldn't worry too much, Denny, because you're a nice guy. I don't. I'd be
You don't know
shocked if you did it. I know. I don't know, but that's the thing. I don't know you, and you don't know me all that great. I mean, like we've talked and we've met in person, but at the end of the day, who knows any of these people? I mean, I met Card Porn at the National. We
me.
talked for a
Hmm.
few minutes.
Hmm.
I really thought, especially because he gave me like a hard time about Mike talking crap about him. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, you know what? Maybe he's not that bad of a guy. He
Hmm.
seems to,
It's true.
and within weeks after that is when all this
Yeah.
stuff came out. It's
Yeah.
just like, who knows anything? That's why
Right.
I love to give people a benefit of the doubt until I can't.
Right.
And yeah, it's a fault, I guess, because I mean, there's some people who are less trusting, but I like to trust as much as I can, but I'm not going to be, once I see the evidence for myself, all right, well, you lost that trust.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if I had a producer, they probably would have been like, "All right, let's move on and let's wrap it up." But I will say thank you for your thoughts on that. And kind of slightly shifting gears, you have kept your facial hair. Can people really trust you with that
That's a
incredible
good,
mustache?
that's a really good. You know what I did about 20 minutes before I came on the spot? I made a TikTok about all of my favorite cards, sports cards with guys who have mustaches for No Shave November. Prostate Awareness Month, prostate
Yes,
cancer. I shouldn't say
yes,
just prostate
that's
awareness. You should be aware of your prostate at all
right,
times, but
right, right.
especially in November for cancer. But
Yes.
yeah, as a man who has a mustache now and has
Hmm.
had several comments about driving a van and not being allowed in school zones. Like I am now completely desensitized to it. It rolls right off my back, and I am well ahead of the curve as far as I couldn't be happier with it. My wife is now
Okay.
happy. I am just cruising with this
Mm,
mustache, and I don't see. There's no
wow.
end in sight.
So for those who are listening to this only in podcast form, because you are now stroking the mustache, which is really kind of like a evil villain, Bond
Well, this would be more of
villain.
an evil villain.
There you
I
go.
twirl it.
So while Jesse is he's oh I should mention he's also shirtless. For the people who
That's,
are
this is a shirt.
well, no, the people in the podcast don't know that. So he's
Oh, okay.
shirtless. He is stroking his mustache. I have shaved. I got rid of
I
the
was
Fu
gonna say,
Manchu.
what happened to
Yeah,
you, bro? It's supposed to be No Shave November.
I know. So I started my first of all, Asians don't grow facial hair for very well. It was very
What about
patchy
the
on
Fu
somebody.
Manchu? Isn't that a
No, I
facial
know.
hair
Well,
in the Asian
yeah, it
culture?
is. It was completely uneven, and
Oh.
I shaved it because it's the week of Thanksgiving, and I have to see my in-laws, and I didn't want to look like an evil nutcracker, which is what some people have equated me to. And it was kind of like my Michael Scott villainous, kind of like different look. And then I'm back to the baby face. So
I honestly, I saw some content. I don't know. It must have been the last few days with you and your goatee. I thought it
mm,
looked great. I thought
yeah.
it really. I don't know. It made you look like a little intimidating in a way.
Thank you. Yeah, right. Like, I'm gonna trade down you or trade up on you. Yeah. I liked it. I think dudes liked it. Women,
Mhm.
including my wife, were like, "That is hideous. Please get rid of it."
How
So
long did you have it? Let me ask.
3 weeks. I grew out the full beard and the whole thing for like
Hmm.
2 months, and because again, it takes a long time for me to grow facial hair.
Same.
I've never done anything like that in my life.
Me
But as soon as
neither.
I started shaving the below the chin, I was like, let me keep this for a little bit, kind of do like the Hulk Hogan walk around, doing the whole like, let me tell you something, brother, all that stuff, and then my wife's like, no, it was fun that you did that, but now it's time. It's Thanksgiving time.
Joke's
So
over, buddy.
joke's over. Cinderella's
Yeah.
shaved her beard off. So
Yeah. Are you Cinderella in this circumstances?
yeah,
That's
I have been told that my head looks like a pumpkin.
oh,
So
okay. Cinderella-ish. I get you.
yeah,
I'll tell
yeah.
you this. I was very much the same. It took me forever to grow my mustache out. I've
Mhm.
now trimmed it. That's how confident I am in its
Mm,
growth, is that I can even trim it and still call it a mustache. But it took months to get to here. And it
yeah.
was only within the last maybe 2 weeks that my
Mm,
wife finally has admitted that she likes it. Like,
ah,
she hated it. She even the
yeah.
threats of I'm cutting it off while you sleep.
Wow,
But
wow. That's
but
illegal.
now
Yeah,
that's yeah. But now when she said cut it off, she meant my mustache. She's gonna cut it off
yeah.
while I sleep. And then but now, just like how I got her to marry me, I wore her down,
You
and
were.
here we are, and we're all happier for it.
Oh my goodness. So you kind of it's like a bonsai tree, your mustache. It's like
Oh,
you trim it very lightly and here and there. I've seen Karate Kid, so I
Yeah.
kind of get how bonsai
You're kind
bonsai
of an
trees work.
expert in bonsais. Yeah. No,
That's
there's some
that's pretty
pruning going
racial.
on.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, thanks for that.
What?
I thought
Are
I
we
thought
not on the
I thought Mike was the one who didn't like Asians. Okay, anyway, moving
Okay.
on.
God.
So this is the "Where Are You Now" episode. So where are you now, Jesse?
Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm in my living office. Yeah. No.
Okay. I was gonna say take it however you wanted to. You went very physical, geographical, location wise.
Yeah.
Where are
Oh,
you now in
where am I now?
hobby? No, just
Hobby.
take it however
Okay.
you want. Where are you now?
You know, where I am is it's really interesting. I'm in a questionable state because we are what? It's November 21st. Cat's out of
Mhm.
the bag. Whenever you're
Yep.
listening to it, we recorded November 21st.
Yep, we did.
Um, and we are waiting to hear back from the bringer as far as if they're going to
Mm,
pick us up or not. And that is, I don't know, nerve wracking because
yeah.
it's like we are at a time where the hobby is like at the probably slowest point it's been since we started the podcast.
Mhm.
Granted, I do think there are some signs of returning to a little bit more of a normal time after the holidays, but
Mhm.
if you took that out and I knew nothing of cards and I just looked and said, "Oh, hey, what's going on in the card world?" and I was a producer or a executive at the Ringer, I might say, "Oh, well, there's not really a lot of interest going on around there." Granted, I will say I'm glad to know that our numbers for the podcast have stayed fairly steady despite the decrease it seems like over the last few months. But at the same time, it just makes me nervous because we had a 3-year contract to begin with, and this is the end of that third year.
Mm,
And our experience has always been with the Ringer is no news is good news, and typically there's no news. They just kind of just keep on doing your thing, and we're happy, and that's how it's been going. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, now we kind of need some news because it's like, well, we need to know if we're going to go out on our own, if we're going to join another network, or if we get to, continue under the Ringer banner. Um, and so, yeah, at this point, where am I now? I'm in limbo a little bit, just kind of figuring out what the next step is going into the new year. I mean, the good news is the podcast will continue either way. There are
mm,
contingency plans in place, but
mm.
we would love to just be able to, there's something about like not rocking the boat and keeping
Mm,
things going as they were and still being a part of like a great network like the Ringer. That's
yeah.
Bill Simmons is awesome, and to have him in your corner is even better. And even though Mike plays it down sometimes, they will text back and forth. Granted, I don't have Bill's number, so
Mm,
I don't like to talk about that. It makes me feel bad, but I
yeah.
am happy that Mike has his number and that they do communicate. And so it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I will be much happier in, I don't know, any amount of time it takes them to say
Mm.
yes. And if they say no, I'll be disappointed, but I'll be okay because I know that there's other options.
Okay. So this is not the point where I will do the Bill Simmons impression. I'm gonna take this with the gravity that it deserves. I wish you all the best. I really do enjoy your podcast, even though I didn't listen to the most recent one. You have some great guests on. You keep it nice and tight. I think I'm a little bit too long-winded, but when it comes to learning podcast styles and beats and just format, I really like what you guys are doing. And
Thank you, man.
anyone who's listening to this who hasn't listened to yours, I don't know how that's possible because you guys are such a big player in the podcast space. But I definitely wish you well. Is this where we tell people that I am going under the umbrella of Sports Cards Nonsense?
I think
That this
it's
podcast?
I think it's time we make that official announcement.
Yes, yes.
As of right now,
That's
with
right.
no previous conversations, this
Zero.
is happening. I am
Yeah.
100% on board. I'll tell you, Denny, I
I,
actually
mhm,
I could see a world. Granted, we should probably have a conversation and actually think about what that would look like. But I could
mhm,
see a world where that could happen, especially just because I enjoy your content. Like I
mm,
enjoy your take on things. I know, like here's here's the thing, your conversation, yours and my conversation during this podcast is not how ours usually goes. Ours is typically a lot faster, and it involves me struggling to get a comment out while Mike has his opinion on whatever. And it's good because people like how that show goes.
Yeah.
This show is much more of a, let's delve into some of these topics a little bit
Yeah.
deeper, and you are a little more content to take the time to do that.
Mm,
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different style. So
right.
what we found, and what I have found to be beneficial, and this is for you and for anybody who has a podcast, is even though I hate it so much, the criticism that comes with having a podcast, with having a microphone, while it's not my favorite thing, it is something that I have benefited from.
Hmm.
I feel like that there is a lot of truth if there's enough people saying something similar. So it's like, yeah, someone might say something that's hurtful or mean about me or about the podcast or
Hmm.
something. It's like, okay, look past it and see what got them to that point, and see what
Hmm.
I can do to try and fix that or edit it
Right.
or something to that effect. Now, granted, there are people who hate that we don't just talk sports cards all the time on our podcast
Mm,
and there's banter. I mean, too bad. There's always going to be banter, and that's why
yeah.
we do have a large audience. So there are things you got to kind of pick and choose. But for the most part, I do, even though I don't like it, I will read the comments and read the reviews just because I think it has helped me grow
Got it.
more than like the advice that I've gotten from people who love me and care about me.
Mm,
It's like, no, you're doing great. Well, that's
yeah.
nice. That's great. But I know I can do better. And I think everybody can do
That's
better.
great.
To think that you walk into any new job and think like, oh, you've already got it down and there's no way you could fix it or, adjust. I think that's foolish. So
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. It seems like I don't have to wear you down for this podcast marriage to occur, so that's good.
yeah,
Um, but
you've already
let's
got
talk
me, buddy.
offline. Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. I am so thrilled for this news to be announced before we even talked about it. So speaking of relationships, that you like that transition there,
Oh, I do. I
you
love a good
have
trans.
you have been the victor in a Battle of the Bands competition with Taylor Swift. Now, since the last time we talked, she has been prominently in the sports world due to her relationship with Jason Kelsey's brother Travis. So,
Yeah.
how has this relationship affected you on a personal level?
I like how you described her as the brother of Jason, or
Yeah.
the dating the brother of Jason Kelly, Jason Kelsey. It's just funny you wouldn't just go straight to Travis Kelsey as if
I,
that's okay. Jason won the game last night. They played last night,
it
and he
had
deserves his time in the sun. He's voted one of the sexiest men of 2023. I like it.
it was
I'm
a slow
sorry for
year.
criticizing.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Um,
um,
but yeah,
I'm
how's
sorry.
Taylor
What was your
doing?
question? She's
I'm
good. She's good.
how
Yeah.
do you feel? Yeah, she's good. Okay, thank you. From the front lines of the Taylor Swift um, gate. I don't know, but
Yeah, no, South
yeah,
America has been there's a lot of humidity, and it's this time of year it can be stressful on a person, but she's holding her own. She told me.
awesome. Thank you. You heard it here first. Breaking news. I want to go to another quick topic, which is, you were talking about again, just you being the what is it, brother-in-law for Mike, right?
Cousin-in-law. His wife
Cousin-in-law.
is my cousin. Yeah.
Yes, gotcha. How is it being an uncle? Because you have the most adorable baby.
Yes. Oh, are we saying my baby or Mike's baby or my daughter? Because
Wait, you have I thought you had I know you have like a daughter who's in elementary school age. You have
yes, I have a
another one?
9-year-old, but that is my only one. The only
Yeah,
other
yeah.
pictures you've seen with me are with his kid.
Yeah, yeah. His
Oh, okay, okay.
little infant, right? Infant, I
Yeah.
think infant. How many I how many months now?
Not even. I don't think it's quite 2 months.
Oh
Somewhere
wow.
getting close to 2 months, plus or
Okay.
minus.
Yeah. No, I sent a little token of appreciation for your podcast, and it was definitely for a child who's older.
Oh, I
But
was there when he opened the package. Yeah, I
I
saw.
to me, you just have to. You never want to send something that a kid is going to grow out of immediately. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just guess at how many months.
Mm,
And what I really want to do. Can I tell you, Jesse? This is breaking
please
news. We're just
go
breaking all
for it.
sorts of news. You know how like all these card people have like the custom mats and they have stickers and they just share it with each other and they have their logo, right? So I have a logo for both the podcast and my own like Denny Cards account. I don't have like that type of like customized stuff except for like a stand. I want to get like a Denny Cards logoed onesie like for like babies because there are some
Yes.
babies
Get them
I just
young.
yeah, get them hooked onto the brand early. So what
Yep.
I want to do, and maybe I'm speaking into existence, maybe I should really try to find a company that does it. But I have like babies in my family and like my, like just kids who are what I'm trying to say. I don't have to justify it. Yeah, I want to have that. I want to be
I,
different.
I'll tell you, if you want something like that, I could almost guarantee I know where you can find it. There,
Mm,
we sell a little bit of merch. We're
mm,
trying to add a few more items, but we sell a little bit of merch on our website, sportscardsnonsense.com. Go check it out.
mm,
Anyways, what we do is we use a service called Printful,
okay.
and it's
Mm,
like it, what is it? I guess it's made to order type of thing. Like, so we don't have like just boxes of our stuff. We just have it where you buy it, and then the people that we've done this through, it makes it, and then they send it off. So yes, we take a little bit of a haircut on it. However, they've got so many options. You can throw a logo on or a funny catchphrase or whatever. And one
mm.
of the things they have are little baby one piece onesies. So
I'm all about it.
there you
Printful,
go.
new sponsor to the podcast.
New
Wow,
sponsor. There you go.
just racking them up. So, yeah, no, I am gosh, there's like so many personal life stuff that I vowed my family I would not talk about, but I love the idea. I have people,
Are you having a
little
baby?
bit. See, this is the
Isn't
no, we're
it?
not.
Are you telling
Oh
us?
gosh,
Bro, just go ahead and do it. Your wife won't
just
care.
go, just go ahead and do
She said it
it.
was cool. She said it was
Yeah,
cool.
she said it was cool. Let's do it. New podcast, new
Oh,
baby.
you
Oh
people
my
hear
gosh,
it. He's dodging that question.
breaking the
Oh,
news.
I
Oh
can't
my
wait. Okay,
goodness.
that's fine. That's fine.
Uh, yeah, no, it's exciting times. So, maybe my content will center around that in the future. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Just go into, there should be baby breakers. Can you think about that? Oh my goodness, these breaker hands, right? And it's
Baby
just baby
breakers.
hands. Yeah, and like you're kind of,
Yes.
or maybe baby's a little bit too much. So like, let's say 4-year-olds, right? And you pay
Okay.
the discount because you know they're going to ding the cards, but this is a
Yeah.
discounted break. You have these little kids, toddlers, who you tell them open up these packs for the paying customers,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
yell out. And what's cuter than a kid yelling out like bang or let's go or like right? I mean, we don't want to hear grown men yell that stuff. Let's have little kids do it.
Yes, absolutely. No, I could not agree with you more. I think that the audience is all listening to this and they're saying, duh, that's an obvious $1 million idea. Do that. So, yeah, whatever I got to do to push it, let's make it happen.
Let's do it. You know what?
We're doing this?
What a
Baby
great
breakers?
baby breakers.
Denny and Sports Boys baby breakers?
Yes. No, we're employing them. They're gonna be 1099. They're not gonna be full-time
Wow.
employees. They're not, like they gotta go
Sure.
to school or they gotta have
Mm,
naps and milk and whatever. But
man, you think
um
ahead, and I like that. That's
no,
good.
you can't settle with the norm. Like that's not how we evolve. That's not how we tax the hobby, right? Let
Absolutely.
me pin it right now. This is the pinnable comment.
Yeah.
In order to 10x the hobby, we must get baby breakers. These little
Yeah.
children must
Mhm.
start breaking product for Michael Rubin.
I think that the statement you just made may be the smartest and most foretelling of the hobby's future that I've ever heard. The fact that you could have a little baby's hands taking cards out of a pack, not only does it pique my interest in, like, oh, how could they do that? Are their fingers dexterous enough to be able to open a pack? Yes, you got me there. But you also, now you're bringing my family in. My wife would love to watch a baby take cards out of a pack. I think at this point in time, I'm willing to give you my life savings to make this happen, to be an early investor.
Oh man, you heard it here first. Thank you so much. This I don't know if this is going to be a really awkward transition or not, but I wanted to transition into talking about Card Shop Live.
I don't. I mean, it makes perfect sense on why you would go from that to that. Yeah,
Perfect
perfect. Yeah,
sense. So, okay, you guys have put in a lot of your personal investment into it, and I only laugh because I'm being so awkward, but you all took a big risk and chance and really put your heart and soul into this. And recently, you all did decide to make the tough decision to disband it and say this is going to be no more. And we're doing a lot of banter and joking, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. And I know this is why Mike Gio did not want to come onto the podcast because he's hiding from all the what did you say, like the South American paparazzi and all that. So
I think I did
um
say that. Yeah, that sounds like
yes,
what I said.
factually accurate,
Yep,
absolutely. But if I may, and if you to the extent that you want to, because I'm not here to do any hard hitting journalism other than the baby breaking business.
sure,
How do you I mean, how do the whole "Where are you now?" Like, how does it feel like? I mean, I'm
sure.
sorry. I wanna say I'm sorry too. Like, I do genuinely feel bad that it did have to
Yes.
disband.
So I think, and I don't think Mike would have any issue commenting on it at all, especially because we've done it on the podcast. He did it on SCR, and at this point in time, it, it's not old news, but it is like something where I don't think I've had much of an opportunity to speak on it. So my point of view is we worked really hard. When I say we, I don't mean like me and Mike. I mean Mike especially, but the rest of the team, like Tamara, our CEO, Carlos, our day-to-day do everything guy, Autumn, our accounting person, John, our IT guy, like the people that like the investors, for goodness sakes, like the people that put money into this, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that got put into this. There's a lot of effort to try and make it, something, to make it a leader in the breaking space, a platform that would be a go-to area for trusting the breaker and having a good community. At the end of the day, we're hindsight is clear. Like, oh, well, yeah, seeing a $1 billion company opening another giant breaking platform alongside the already giant platform that was there, whatnot, and then Fanatics coming in, it's like, oh, maybe that's not the best time to also start one, just because it'd be very difficult
Mhm.
to fight for share. Because at the end of the day, it's all about how do you get more eyes on the platform? Well, you get more eyes typically by marketing, and you can only market so much until you start running out of funds, because guys are going to come to the platform at when you market, but then they may go to another platform just as fast because there's maybe another, these people running credits, free giveaways, things like that.
Yeah.
I can't say that, I think when Mike went on SCR, I told him afterward, I thought he spoke really well and he gave the details fine, but I did have a problem with one thing that he said, and it was the amount of blame that he took personally, saying like
Mhm.
I lost everyone's money, or I made this mistake, or whatever it was.
Mhm.
It was like he says it as if it wasn't like everyone was on board. It wasn't like oh, he just called every shot. Things that he would say or suggest were typically like a either group decision, or
Mhm.
everyone gave feedback or buy-in to this idea. There wasn't like oh, well, I'm going to do this and I don't care about anyone else's opinion. So
Mhm.
I I think that was my biggest complaint. It was just like, dude, you don't deserve like all this like hate on it. It was just, it's a business that failed because we just couldn't get enough eyes and enough money to go through the platform. That's what it was at the end of the day. And
Mhm.
that's, blame it on the hobby, blame it on the way it was run. I More than likely it's a combination of both and then some. But I think that the people that wanted, or who worked on this, who wanted it to succeed, did everything they could to make it succeed. It
Yeah.
just, sometimes it doesn't go.
Isn't it sometimes such a hard balance to have enough self-blame, but then also not being too hard on yourself? Like, I've really tried my hardest, and especially since COVID times, the peak of the pandemic, is to like not be so hard on myself because I feel like for the overwhelming majority of my life, I've been my own harshest critic. And I've been trying to allow myself to understand, like, hey, like, yes, I do demand accountability for myself, and like I take blame, but like I can't beat myself over it. And like,
Mhm.
like it is, like you said, it was a team, and not trying to say everyone failed, but like it doesn't seem like it was run like a dictatorship and that one
No,
person ran the show. So it's like and also like external factors, like you mentioned. That's there's nothing, you can only control what you can control, right?
absolutely. I think we did a lot of good in the hobby while we had the opportunity. We gave people voices, a platform that might
Mhm.
not have had that otherwise, that might have
Yeah.
failed if they weren't using our platform. So that's awesome that there were, sellers that got to take advantage of that, that made more money than they could have anywhere else at the time. And it's like, well, we did good for them. We gave jobs while we could.
Hmm.
I we mentioned on our podcast, Mike, other than like 3 months of very minimal salary, Mike and I didn't take any other income. Like that
Wow.
was all we ever got out of the app.
Yeah.
And everybody else other than the two or three people were also unpaid. Like the people
Mm.
that cared about this, who wanted to make it work, we stopped
Yeah.
taking paychecks long ago because we were like,
Wow.
okay, well, we can see, like, we've got money, but we also want to use it wisely and we want to make this thing grow. So how best to do that than keep as much money in there if we can afford it?
Right.
So we did, and at least we can say, we tried.
Yeah.
If we walked away from this, with more money than we started with, I would feel pretty guilty. I would feel like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Right.
did something wrong as a part owner of this thing.
I
But
see.
that fortunately was not the case.
So, I mean, maybe one of the final questions I have is, so no regrets with
What's a
everything?
regret? Is that like a go-gurt in a
Go
regret
well,
mix?
it's the classic meme of the incorrect spelling of regrets as a tattoo, I believe.
I don't know if I've seen that meme, which is
Uh,
shocking because I've seen all the memes. Oh, it's something familiar. Um, no regrets. Well, it depends. I don't have regrets in, like, for what we did in the moment. In hindsight, if I knew what I know now, yeah, it's like I'd go back and fix all the things that I know now that maybe I could have done, but honestly, I don't even know if that would have done anything. Like I
right.
don't know unless we just got an influx of cash, or we found a opportunity that no one else had thought of. But
Hmm.
I think the people that worked hard to make this a success made decisions that a lot of other executives or corporate people who have been in similar situations would have also made.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that every one of them was the right answer, because obviously it's not a successful business, but it it lasted for a couple years and it made some people some money. So I'm happy about that. My
Right.
biggest regret is that the people that put a lot of money in it, the investors, at this point, unless someone, we're still selling the software, so there's still a viable app there that works. So we're
Hmm.
still hoping, like, oh, someone comes in, buys the tech off of us, and then we can give the investors back their money, or at least, as much as we can. That would probably be my biggest regret, is that we just, weren't everyone wasn't made whole at the end.
Yeah. Well, I think that was very well said, and I think maybe I'll get us out on this because we are nearing like the hour mark, which is I do have one really big regret, and if got to be vulnerable in this podcast, so I'll just share it with you. Is my biggest regret is not having you on earlier, so that we could have workshopped baby breakers early enough to potentially be woven into Card Shop Live as a potential viable way to grow the business. So,
Mm, mm.
you know
You
what?
know, I say
Yeah,
this
go
with
ahead.
all due respect, Denny,
Yeah.
but it may be your fault that it failed. Like I know you didn't mean to, but when you got like gems like that rattling around
Yeah.
upstairs and
Yeah.
you don't put them out into the world, it's kind of a responsibility that was on you. So we'll just leave it there.
This is the cross that I'll have to bear for the rest of my life. And you know
Yeah.
what? It makes me I'm gonna have to watch Good Will Hunting a lot, where they just keep saying it's not your fault, just over and over again. And
I just
everyone's like,
got goosebumps just by you
yeah,
saying that. Oh, that scene. Oh,
don't do this to me, man.
stop
Um,
it. God, Denny.
This is
Goosebumps.
sort of,
I'm telling you. Look,
you know,
just look at it.
look,
Well, you can't.
I am generally goosebumpy, so I mean, we're both showing our arms here. Not a single hair in sight for both of our forearms. Look at that. This
I
is
have a hair, but you
You have
don't,
hair?
honestly.
No,
Why
I
don't
don't.
you have hair on
It,
your arms? Do you
it,
shave
it
it?
all went to it all yeah, it all went to my face. No, I'm like a pretty hairless
Really?
yeah, I mean, if I'm not gonna take my shirt off here. I mean, I guess it's because
I'll
it's
take
already
my
off.
shirt. Do you want me to take my shirt
Okay.
off? Or
No, you know what?
no?
You pay for that content. That goes
That's
behind the Patreon wall. Okay, Jesse. We're
that's
gonna learn from
exactly
each
right.
other.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for being on this. Where are you now? It seems like you are you're maintaining optimism. You've there are some learned lessons. I wish nothing but the best. Where we're marrying our podcast together. I guess I'm having another baby, which I didn't realize. I'm gonna have to tell my wife about that.
She's gonna be psyched, man. So happy for her.
So psyched, and it'll all be because I'm trying to get the onesies with the logo, and then of course they got to break. The kids got to break, right? I mean, they got to earn their milk.
Makes a lot of
So
sense.
I think this all just is a wonderful way to end the podcast. So Jesse, Sports Boy, Gibson, the better half of the duo that makes up Sports Cards Nonsense, powered by Ringer, at least for now, right?
Yeah,
So
and whether it's now or into the future, it's been such an honor to have them backing us. So we wouldn't be
yes.
here without them. So if you're listening, I just plugged you, Ringer. Sign us up.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm gonna have to give it a shot. I think you get one more year. Maybe an option, our option for the second year.
10 years or nothing, Bill. That's all I'm gonna
Hey,
say.
oh, sorry, I got to take another call. Sorry.
I'll catch you on the flip side, Bill.
Yep. Thank you so much, Jesse, and everyone else. Can you say Auf Wiedersehen to the German listeners?
Auf Wiedersehen.
Of course you would. All right. Take care.
Danke.